Hey Bat fans, Luke here, back with another video, and today we're going to talk about another story, another Batman story that is. This one being Batman Rules of Engagement, which was written by Andy Diggle and art by Will Say Portacio, with inks by Richard Friend. This story, collected in this trade, appeared in the Batman Confidential series, issues 1 through 6. And if you're keeping track at home about where to kind of put this in any sort of Batman timeline you have, I kind of put this somewhere between Batman Terror and Batman Nightcries. And also, it is mentioned here numerous times throughout the story that this occurs relatively soon, 1 year after Bruce Wayne starts being Batman. And what basically happens in this story, to kind of stay somewhat spoiler-free, is that you see in here a couple key milestones in this story. You see the introduction of the Batwing in here. You see the creation of, the establishment of the Wayne Foundation. And you also see the first interaction between Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor. Well, technically? Yeah, when I say technically, when you read the story, you'll kind of see why, but I'm pretty sure in the opening part of the story, that is actually Lex Luthor. Toward the end, there's a robot. So I feel pretty comfortable saying this is the first interaction between Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor. And what this story is about is basically there's a conflict between Wayne Enterprises and LexCorp over winning a Department of Defense contract with the creation of these robots, whereas there's two versions of it. You got the Wayne Enterprises version where it's a robot, but it's remotely controlled and operated by a human being off-site. And what they want to do is obviously have the robots, do all the fighting, but again, it's operated behind a human being. That means there's clear human thought between the choices this robot can make. There's human decision, there's emotion, and there's the human element behind all the action of these robots. And then you got LexCorp, who are creating a robot and it is strictly robotic, removing all elements of the human decision making into the robot's actions. And eventually what does happen, through, of course, it wouldn't be Lex Luthor if it wasn't done some shady way, LexCorp does win the contract, and LexCorp does establish this army of robots. But again, there's always an ulterior motive behind Lex Luthor. He does take these armies of robots, and as they are established across all the military installations across the United States, Lex Luthor turns the tables on everyone and implements a coup, and the robots attack all of the military installations. Lex Luthor deems that the political leaders of the country are unfit and incompetent, and it is up to him to make America great. Not going to go there. Oops, stop. Sorry. Okay, we're going to keep this as non-political as possible. He's going to lead the country in the right direction. And that is exactly what he does. But ultimately, again, Batman finds a way to get ahead of Lex Luthor and saves the day. And that's basically the gist. Again, you get the first interaction between Bruce and Lex Luthor. You get the establishment of the Batwing. And then later on, toward the end of the story, you have the establishment of the Wayne Foundation. Overall, I thought the story was okay. The story in itself, it's not gonna knock you out of your socks. It's pretty good. I will say, when you open up the story, the first part, it really does get you. It grasps you. I'm gonna try that again. it grabs you. There it is. Um, you see, there's a prostitute who's trying to leave the game with her little girl, and the prostitute is hunted down and killed, and Batman gets there just a little bit too late, but it does find a way to save the daughter. But the assassin is later shot, and it does get you and put you in this really dark story right off the bat. But then it kind of takes a little turn where again it goes into the competition for the Department of Defense, and then it goes into all these robots attacking. So the story starts out really good, but really does veer off into somewhat of a dark street level detective type of story, into this really weird robotic coup Lex Luthor angle of a story. So again, while it as a whole I thought it was good, it had some elements where it really did have the roots of a potential of a really good Batman story, but really did morph into something totally different. Again, there's elements to this which are the stories are really good. Lex Luthor again, always having his ulterior motives. How he bribes people, actually bribes a senator who's the head of the chair that's making the decision behind the winning of this contract by the Department of Defense. How Lex Luthor bribes him in addition to the member of the Wayne Enterprises technology head that actually created the Wayne Enterprises version of the robots. How he was bribed was pretty good. And in the end, the twist with Lex Luthor at the very end, at the end of the story, again, it was typical Lex Luthor. Which I thought was pretty well done. Bruce's character in this, on point. I thought the dialogue really hit home. Alfred, his appearance throughout here was really well done. Typical Alfred we've seen in all the great Alfred stories. You get the feeling here. So Diggle does hit that to point. And how he kind of weaves everything with the murder, and how Wayne Enterprises gracefully loses the competition, but does so with his head held high, and Batman saves the day. And at the very end, how the senator was exonerated with the charges that a murder you see in here. It's how Lex Luthor kind of blackmails him. It was all done really well. So while it did kind of morph from one type of story to another, I thought the characters throughout were well done. The plot points they wanted to hit throughout these 6 issues were hit really well. And again, the dialogue throughout it was good. It just, if I just had to say anything about the story, again, it just really started one way, but really did morph into something totally different. But then came back at the very end. Into more of a typical Batman story, which you would think. The art. If I had to say anything about really the negative on this story, it would be the art. Not to say that Porstachio, I'm really hoping I'm saying that name right, is a bad artist. I'm not saying that. Because there are some images in here that are actually really well done. You see the 6 covers in here, and even on the cover of the trade, right there is issue 1. It's actually, it has some good designs throughout. And while the paneling, I think, is kind of bland and vanilla, still the art has its moments where it's actually pretty decent. But there are some ones where it's just really, you see it really does shake your head. Like you see here the eyes. Pistachio's eyes and his character sometimes are really alien-like. And then the head design of Batman throughout, it's like, I don't even know. It's what you see it up close. See if I can get a little closer. Some of them, it just doesn't look like a human head. It just, the dimensions, it's like more of a beak. And I know that's the cowl, and it's kind of giving that, but look where the nose is. So not only is the head more domish, the nose is more of like a beak, whatnot. And you see some ones, it's just the anatomy, it's just And it's like that right there almost looks like the Batman versus Superman Batman mecha suit design. But again, that's not really armor. That's just the anatomy of the head. So there's some points in the art where it's just. I mean, you see right here. I mean, that's what I'm kind of talking about. It's more like the face, almost like a pelican, whatnot. It's just the anatomy, especially of the faces, sometimes are really off. And another thing I want to mention again, like, I mean, if you take away the face design, I mean, I think that's really good art right there. I want to mention a name. Okay, well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to say the name, but there's another artist that went to Marvel, but it was actually on Batman and Superman for a while. And initially, I thought his art was really good, but the one thing I always critiqued about his art was that while he had the designs were decent, he had really these excess shading, and like it was like almost, especially like on the face of it right here, like that's excessive. I don't know if it's just the inker or if that was more the pencils. I almost believe sometimes the artist I'm kind of referring to, without not really saying the name, I think it's more the pencils because it actually had the shading marks of the pencils into the facial designs. But in this case, you'll see sometimes it just kind of has that thing where I just can't stand where some of the faces, even not even more than just the faces, it's just got this excess shading, which just really does drive me nuts. I remember even in the first issue of Arkham Manor, that 6-issue mini back in the day, or as Goofy, oh god, who was that? Diggle? Not Diggle. Dugan, who was it? Jerry Dugan? I can't remember if he was writing or write it or did he draw. Either way, I just remember the art in that story sometimes was never mind just the body dimensions. It's just the execution of the art. It was just real scribbly and just dreaming. Well, I guess when I come down to it, you see that a lot in here. There's a lot of scribbly shading designs, and it's just really off-putting. But then you see some really good parts. It's just, again, there's more. It's just the anatomy of Batman just look really off in here sometimes. But again, you see some interesting art in here at times too, so it's not all that bad. But if I had to say anything about the weak part of the story, yeah, I think that's more inker than penciler. I think the art really did kind of take it down a notch. But again, I mean, it has potential. The colorist, I don't even know who the colorist is. Didn't we mention David Barron / ILL, whatever. The colors were pretty decent. So yeah, that's what kind of drug it down a little bit. Was the art? It did have some interesting parts to it, but it's a theme throughout the story. It's just anatomy, excess shading, just really kind of took you out of it a little bit. Overall, again, this wasn't a bad story. It was decent. It was a good read. I mean, again, it's nice to have the first interaction of Lex Luthor and Batman, and I'm sorry, Bruce Wayne, the Batwing, the first use of Batwing in modern continuity in this story. And again, Wayne Foundation, that's all great and dandy. And again, the story itself, maybe again, if it had a better art, I think this would be more prominent. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah, take out Pistachio and put in Fabok. I'm sure Fabok. I mean, that's why sometimes I think artists are really underestimated because they can kind of push the story over the edge one way or the other. If you have a halfway decent story and have really good artists, it's going to put that story into an upper echelon level of really good story. Man, that is freaking horrible grammar. I can't talk today. But if you have a mediocre story and a subpar artist, it's just going to just drag it down. This one, again, I'm not going to say that Pistachio is a subpar artist. I just think the art in his story didn't help anything to kind of bump it up. If I had to rank this, I'd give this an average read at best. 2.5 out of 5. Would I go out and get it? Bat completionist? Yeah, sure. Get the senior collection. If you're just a casual Batman fan, I'd kind of stay away. And if you're new to Batman, prioritize stuff elsewhere. Get the keys before kind of getting into this. This kind of goes into low end of your priority. It's unfortunate, but it's just average read. So anyway, maybe do one more video. Don't know. Gonna have to figure it out. I do want to get back to single issue reviews, but if not that, I know I'm looking. I really do want to do some Tony Daniel stories in addition to some Streets of Gotham. One of those stories. Maybe do some Ra's al Ghul stories. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff I want to do. Just gotta get some time to do it. So anyway, again, if you read this story, hit me up in the comments below what you thought about it, and we'll bat chat about it and kind of go from there. So until next video, take care, everybody.